I've been following what's happening now in Canada with Trudeau and the Emergency Act that I did a video on the other day. And I think the whole entire world is following this right now. Anyways, I have a theory about what's going to happen. So I don't think that Trudeau is going to use the Emergency Act powers on the people. I think that it's not because of him or his goodness or something like that. I mean, I think it's going to get stopped either in Parliament or in the provinces. And we've seen this now that the restrictions are being lifted in several large provinces like I think Alberta, Saskatchewan, and now recently also in Ontario. They're going to lift the mandates and restrictions, I think the 1st of March, so in like 2 weeks. And with the way that's going, I think also Trudeau was talking in his speech. I think a lot of people just listened to the part about the Emergency Act, but he also mentioned, I think that they're going ahead with plans to, look over restrictions and so forth. And so what I think is that the main thing that the protesters want is to remove the mandates, force and restrictions, right? But I don't think Trudeau, he's kind of painted himself into a corner where he can't go out and talk to the protesters. He can't abide by their demands. This is how he feels. I mean, I think that he should, but with the way he works, I don't think he can. So he doesn't have anything to gain, though, by going really hard, like with a big hammer on these protesters, because these are normal people, even though the media have portrayed them as being, both the media and Justin Trudeau has portrayed them as being extremist, racist, Nazis, misogynist, whatever, right? Stupid people and a fringe minority and all that. But if he went out with, police or military and started conscripting people, which is kind of like slavery, into working for him to remove the trucks and all that, like all these things that he could do with these emergency powers, I think that would just be really bad politically for him, because you've seen already it's like an open goal for the political opposition if he actually does that. And I think that Trudeau also know this. I think that he know this is not going to happen. This is probably going to get stopped by the political opposition in Parliament or in the provinces that are opening up, because why would the provinces really want to hammer down on these people that want to remove restrictions when they are removing restrictions, right? And it would look really, really bad for Trudeau, and I don't think Trudeau has anything to gain from it, and I think he knows that in a sense. I think he wants to be able to say in retrospect that he took bold action pretty much to stop the economical damage of these protests and blockades. And so, like, I tried, right, but they stopped me. And then he can point to he can make a story about the economical damage or people like not being able to drive their cars to work or whatever. He can point to all of that in retrospect, because as the restrictions are lifted and the mandates are taken away, I think the protests will also fizzle out after a while, as they are kind of getting what they wanted in a sense. Hopefully, I mean, I hope they will get what they want. But so I think as the restrictions are being removed, the protests will fade away, and Trudeau can, he can just I was stopped. He can say, I was stopped. I tried to stop them from doing economical damage, whatever. And then he can go ahead and also plan to remove restrictions on a larger scale. And then he can say that we've been planning this all along. It wasn't because of the protest. The protest tried to destroy everything. And you see, I tried to stop them even with the emergency powers, but I couldn't do that. So he can go really hard on how the oppositions let the protesters destroy all this economical property or whatever, right? While he was planning to remove restrictions anyways, basically. So the protests were not for a good cause, and it wasn't because of them that it was the science that changed. You look at other countries, what they're doing, and he will pull up some stats about how we're now in post-COVID era, or like Omicron, because of Omicron we can do this or that, right? So yeah, so he can portray himself as a guy that was ready to do anything to stop violent protests, I think, and not bow down to protesters, because he doesn't want to be seen as someone that bow down to protesters, right? Or like what he would call like violent extremism. So you can't do that, but he can't also just hammer down on these normal people, right? But if he gets stopped from doing that, then he can always go with, I tried, and we were planning to remove restrictions anyway. I said this in my speech and all of that, right? So anyways, that's my theory. I think that is the way it's going to go. Obviously I can't say for sure, and I would be really welcoming to hear your opinions on my theory and what you think is going to happen. Yeah, I don't think he's actually going to use these powers. And it's not because he's a good person. I want to add that. It's not because I think he's a great person or something that doesn't want to, use these things on people. I think it's just a political play, basically. Let's head over to the video, I think, from yesterday. That was really interesting. And it kind of goes along with what I've been saying here. Because how could Trudeau really hammer down on these people and keep calling them all these kind of names when he has the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, saying this?
You can go to Costco, you can go to Walmart, you can go shopping. You don't know if the person has a shot beside you or not, but we also know that it doesn't matter if you have 1 shot or 10 shots, you can catch COVID. See, the Prime.
What have we all been saying now for quite some time? Isn't it interesting that they start saying it now? And like a year ago or half year ago, even maybe 3 months ago, these are extremist views, right? It's just something that you cannot say, and you will be branded as all kinds of names.
Ministry is triple shots, and I know hundreds of people with 3 shots that caught COVID. We just have to be careful. We've got to always make sure we wash our hands and move forward. But Colin, we can't stay in this position forever. We got to learn to live with this and get on with our lives.
That's what a lot of us have been saying now for a long time.
If I asked every single person in this room, do you want these damn masks or do you want them off? They want them off. They want to get back to normal. They want to be able to go for dinner with their families. And there's every single person, including myself, knows people that are unvaccinated. Sure, there's the rebel rousers, and then there's just hardworking people that just don't believe in it.
That's great. I heard this and I was like, what the fuck? He's I think I think his daughter has an influence on him. And I've seen that his daughter is quite outspoken against the mandates and was cheering on the protest and everything. That's a really interesting dynamic in itself, right? But it's just so insane to hear this from a guy like this, right? That has been pushing mandates, pushing force, telling people what to do now for 2 years. And now it's like, yeah, there's good people everywhere and whatever. I agree with that, what he's saying, but it's just insane to hear it now, right? It's like, I read a comment in a Facebook group that I'm in, and it was so great. It was like, these politicians are giving me whiplash. It's like, it's fucking true, man. It's like you get whiplash from listening to these politicians flip-flop, and it's like, what the hell? But anyways, this is a good direction, but it's just so crazy to hear it. And just remember, it wasn't more than a few weeks ago, Trudeau was talking about how these people should not be tolerated in society, and they are misogynist and racist and all these kind of names, right? And now they're like, oh, there's good people. Whatever, we've been thinking this all along, right?
And that's their choice. This is about, again, a democracy and freedoms and liberties. And I hate, as a government, telling anyone what to do. We just got to get moving forward. But
why are you doing that then? it's about democracy and freedom and freedom of choice. Has it been a freedom of choice in Canada now for the last year plus 2 years? I mean, it's great. This development, I think, is good, but it's just so crazy.
Get out of this and protect the jobs. You know, I think a lot of people, Colin, probably yourself too, everyone's done with us. Like, we are done with it. Let's start moving on, and cautiously. And you know, we've followed the rules, all of us, like 90% of us, for over 2 years. The world's done with it. So let's just move forward.
You know, he actually sounds honest there. I actually listened to him, and the last part there, he does sound done with it. And I think in a sense he is. I think he is tired. I think he wants to live normally. But with the things he and the government has done, it's just so crazy to hear that from someone that's been forcing people and dividing people. And, you know, people have lost their jobs, lost their livelihoods, companies, friends, family, everything like this. And now it's just like, we're done with this. We're so tired. It's like, yeah, fuck it, man. I agree. I agree. But, and also, I think this underscores the point of my theory that I laid out before, that with premiers of Ontario, like Doug Ford here, I think he is the premier of Ontario, right? And he's removing all the restrictions at the first in 2 weeks. And when he's talking like this, like, how could Justin Trudeau go out and just you know, hammer people with these insane totalitarian laws and powers that he's, you know, invoking? I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a play. I think, yeah, just like I said in my theory before, I think he's just using that to be able to say in retrospect what he tried to do. And he will try to spin it like, yeah, we were trying to stop the damage of all of this and the protest. There was a few good points maybe, but they were taken over by extremists, and that's what we were trying to stop. But then we were stopped from helping people in that sense. And he can go on like that, and he will really, he can argue that the protesters couldn't, force him to do something, because that would be dangerous for democracy or whatever, if people can hold cities hostage and get whatever they demand, right? He will try to do something like that. So that is my theory, and I think that's the way Canada's heading right now. I hope I'm correct, but because I think that's a good direction. But let's see. And please tell me what you think, if you think I'm really wrong or if you think I'm onto something here. Bye.